Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. G'day and welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are excited to bring this episode to you. We're going to be talking a little bit more about some mistakes people make when they rewire the brain. And I think this is going to be really interesting for those of you who are embarking on an ending body burnout journey for yourself. Philly, what else have we got coming up in the episode today?
Yeah, so rewiring the brain, it's a pretty trendy term that people are becoming more and more aware of. It's becoming more prevalent in the health space, which is great. So you might have tried this practice, rewiring the brain, trying to change neural pathways so that you can be well and think better thoughts. If you have tried but you haven't had much success, you've probably made one or more of these mistakes. We're going to go over 7 of them today, which can block your healing and your results. And or if you have been thinking about adding a rewiring element to your health journey, this episode is going to save you a bucket load of time and money and energy so that you can rewire it in a way that actually works. And by the way, if you want to go deeper on this topic, we're running a free live coaching week in September called Rewire Your Brain to Heal from Body Burnout. In the show notes, we've got a link where you can register. It is free. On the first day, we're going to look at brain inflammation. It's actually hard to rewire an inflamed brain and what to do about it. Day 2, we're going to look into your patterns. So sometimes people can just do rewire practices that they might have found on a course or on the internet. They're ticking those practices off. But rewiring the brain practices can be a band-aid if you're not actually looking at deeper patterns and wounds stuck in your unconscious mind. And then day 3, we're going to look at rewiring pain signals. So how to create new neural pathways of safety and essentially switch off symptoms.
So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Stick around. We look forward to sharing this content with you.
Yes. So let's dig in first. What does it actually mean to rewire the brain? Sometimes people use the term retraining your brain, rewiring your brain, very similar things. Essentially, they mean to create new neural pathways in your brain. So the human brain evolves over time and it's building all these different neural pathways for anything that we do, any thought that we have, any feeling, any action, even physical and mental health symptoms are neural pathways. And the brain's really efficient. So it gets very clever at creating shortcuts, which is why neural pathways are created so that the brain experiences something and then it's like, this is what we do. And the neural pathway sends the communication signal down to the part of the brain or to the thoughts or to the emotions to experience that thing. The wiring of neurons is happening all the time. Every thought that you have, every belief, every perception, every sensation that you have creates a neural pathway. And if this thing is repeated, it creates a strong neural pathway. So a really concrete example of that would be a baby learning to walk. A new little baby learning to walk hasn't yet created neural pathways to know how to walk automatically. Over time, as the baby practices and gets better at that, that soft neural pathway becomes a hard neural pathway and it becomes a autonomic response. The child doesn't even have to think about how to walk, it just walks. From a health perspective, this can show up with something like any symptom really, but I'll use an example of a food sensitivity. So you might have, back in the day, been able to eat gluten all the gluten, the bread, the cookies, the cakes, the pastries, no issues. And then all of a sudden, over time, you're starting to become more and more sensitive to it. Now, highly likely, again, won't go too much into why you are now gluten sensitive. There's probably gut health components to it. There's probably all sorts of metaphysical things going on as well. But when you start developing a chronic symptom, it will start off as a soft neural pathway first. It's like, oh, you might have eaten gluten and you also had a flu or an infection at the same time. And then all of a sudden the brain is like, ooh, gluten's dangerous now. Oh, okay. So every time we eat gluten, we have to get faster and faster at sending pain to the body because the brain thinks that we're in danger. And that's how chronic health issues can form over time. So rewiring your brain involves practices that guide your brain to start making new neural pathways that will lead to healthy thoughts, healthy behaviors, and rewire the way your brain is sending pain signals to the body. So essentially, we're rewiring new neural pathways so that the brain is no longer sending signals to the body to create a symptom, whether that's bloating, heartburn, headaches, chronic pain, fatigue. And a big part of this is quietening down the limbic system and the amygdala part of the brain. So this part of the brain is naturally wired for danger. It's so important. It's part of our evolution. It's trying to keep us safe, and it does keep us safe. So that amygdala will fire if you're about to pick up a snake or you touch your hand on a hot plate and you burn yourself. It will send the signal that you're in danger, you need to get out. In chronic health issues, the amygdala is on fire. It gets stuck in fight flight. It is very loud. It is very activated, and it's constantly sending danger signals to the body. So rewiring the brain, super important, and can be a missing piece to someone's healing journey. And it has a really big connection with body burnout as well. So body burnout is a brain issue. Body burnout is a chronic stress issue. Body burnout is a fight-flight response issue. So it's absolutely connected to the brain and the nervous system and neural pathways. Now, also patterns of burnout. So patterns of burnout, we see people running busy patterns, people-pleasing patterns, perfectionism, overdoing patterns. You have created neural pathways if you are someone who identifies with those patterns, not identifying as that pattern, just you have them currently. You have created neural pathways that continue to fire this way of being. So, for example, you see your to-do list and you think that if you don't get it done before the end of the day, the whole world is going to fall apart. Now, it's kind of like catastrophizing type thinking, but over time, these patterns become more entrenched in who you are being. And so therefore, you can rewire these patterns to help you get into a calm and healing state so your body can actually heal.
This is really interesting. We were having a conversation just before we press record about one of our daughters. And you remember, and I was saying, this is really irritating me. It's really frustrating. And you have a completely different viewpoint on it. You had a different experience of her. And then you said, this sounds like it's a you problem, which is kind of our like
comeback.
It's our favorite comeback, I guess.
Reality check.
And well, it really is a frustration with others, is a frustration with yourself, is a frame that we found useful. And so then it's just like, all right, well, hang on, why do I have a problem with this? Like I literally actually said that out loud, not expecting Philly to say anything, but more myself to think about it. It's like, why do I have a problem with this? Why is this an issue for me? And then going into, it's like, all right, why is this dangerous for me? I might not necessarily say my 9-year-old is a danger to me, but my nervous system really can't tell the difference between a psycho playing gridiron coming to knock my head off and feeling unsafe in that way, a psycho that I hang out with and love and enjoy. Blah, blah, blah. I love gridiron. Anyway, and a 9-year-old, my nervous system can't tell the difference. So my system is unsafe, which leads to fear and frustration and annoyance and snappiness and a big grumpy dad, saying things that are unnecessary, unkind, and not being the best version of myself, taking the low road, It's all because I make this mean something about me. And so my nervous system is fight, flight, tapped into fight usually. We get into arguments, my daughter and I, because my whole system isn't safe. And so there's stories in there.
Yeah, which is a neural pathway.
Yeah.
And so I think you brought that example up because my perception of her when you said you came out before we did this recording, it's like, oh.
Don't say name.
What are we going to do about this person? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, whoa, you're making these like whoa noises. And I'm like, I think she's cute and sweet and kind and lovely. I just think she's cute. So we're having two different experiences. So our experiences already have two different types of neural pathways created in our being, and they can be flipped and they can be rewired and rewritten. So, and then when you can do that, so if something's currently triggering you and it's a you issue, not an outside issue, which it always is a you issue, then you can rewire those pathways so that you're no longer triggered against that, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that's also goes into deeper beliefs as well. So beliefs are also neural pathways. Everyone has them, and you have identity, unconscious core beliefs. We riff on about this all the time because it is a deep root cause of body burnout. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. I'm undeserving. And over time, when someone like a child creates that belief about themselves, we're sense-making creatures. So we're collecting more and more and more and more evidence for these beliefs over the years, which means that you've created really strong neural pathways about these beliefs, which keep you stuck in fight flight, as if the tiger's always chasing you. It's unsafe to be you. It's unsafe for you to be in this world. And so, again, these beliefs, neural pathways can be rewired. And major symptoms of body burnout. So we're talking about this. I'm like, why are we talking about this? Oh, connection between rewiring the brain and body burnout. So major symptoms of body burnout, things like energy, mood, gut issues, pain in the body. They are not just physically located in the body, but the brain is also now perpetuating physical symptoms. And the brain can continue perpetuating those physical symptoms even after physical healing is done. This is so classic in someone who has done a lot of gut work, and then you do a poo test and it's like your gut still looks pretty good, like compared to your original test, but all your symptoms are still there. What's going on? It's because your brain has gotten very good at creating neural pathways that when you eat that food or you smell that thing or you experience stress, whatever that trigger is, your brain sends the signal down to the gut to produce the symptom. So that in order to resolve body burnout symptoms, there must be a rewiring of the brain element to your healing. Okay. So let's talk about the 7 mistakes. So mistake number 1, we're just going deep into the stuff, and there's a few mistakes at the end that are kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of knew that one, but they're important to reiterate. So mistake number 1 is it's difficult to rewire an inflamed brain. Now, again, at the start, I said rewiring, retraining the brain. It's become super trendy. There are courses out there. There are books. There are people who are becoming qualified in this. There are people who have been qualified in it for decades. More and more people are becoming aware of the importance of rewiring the brain.
Yay.
Which is a great thing. But what can happen is that sometimes people are forgetting that the brain is physical. and they start disregarding the physical component of healing. And we are in our ending body burnout method, we are healing both the physical and the metaphysical parts of your bodies. Your body is not just physical. It's also not just metaphysical. It's one and the same. So we must look at both sides. Brain inflammation is basically your body's immune response to a perceived threat or an injury within the brain. And this inflammation can be caused by inflammation in the body. So it literally could be a brain injury where you have had a hit to the head and your brain is inflamed. But more often than not, it's actually inflammation elsewhere in the body. So you've got pathogens in your gut, you've got leaky gut, there's toxins, you're not clearing toxins from your body very effectively, your detox pathways are out of whack, there's nutrient deficiencies, you're eating an inflammatory diet, you're drinking lots of alcohol. These are all sources of inflammation in the brain. Now, some of these things can be reversed by changing the lifestyle. Some of these things may need some functional medicine lab testing to actually identify, do you have an inflamed brain? We can actually see that on a test via your urine, which is cool. And then if you do, where is the inflammation coming from, and can we reduce that and eliminate that, so that as you continue to rewire your brain using more of the metaphysical practices, oh my gosh, it's going to work so much easier, and so it's going to be so much more effective and also faster because your brain is healthy. Okay, mistake number 2 would be that you're not identifying and reprogramming deeper unconscious core beliefs. So as we said before, beliefs are the machine that drive everything. Now, I've seen some brain retraining, rewiring practices, programs, courses, also talking to clients who have done different things, and there has been nothing on deep unconscious core beliefs, which just blows my mind, because when you do brain rewiring practices, and that might look like guided meditation, it might look like breath work, it might be nervous system regulation techniques, it might be progressive muscle relaxation, anchoring, somatic tracking, pendulation of like sensations in your body. All of these are great. We use a lot of these tools, but if you're not getting into the deep root as to why your system is dysregulated in the first place and you've created all these dodgy neural pathways, then your brain rewiring practices can end up being just a band-aid. And these dysfunctional core identity beliefs will win every time by sabotaging either your efforts to rewire. It's like you got the best of intentions to do the thing, but you never put aside the time to actually rewire. Or you might be doing the things and ticking off the practices, but because you've got some really deep-seated unconscious core beliefs that you're not good enough, that you're incapable, that you're weak, that you're broken, then that's going to block any long-lasting change, because your beliefs dictate everything.
I love Tony Robbins. He's got those 3 S words, the state, strategies, and stories, and he said you can practice strategies till the cows come home. You know, you can breathe, you can meditate, you can do therapy, all that sort of stuff. You can come up with good ideas to calm down. But if you're in the wrong state, those strategies will never work for you. And then it's really hard to get into the right state if you don't really address those stories that are underlying those dysfunctional beliefs, those core beliefs. So we like to look at all 3 of those things, and not discounting any one of those, but the most shortcutty, if you want to use that way to go about this, is just get straight to the story. Just go straight in there, get that, play with that, and then get into the right state, and then you'll be able to choose strategies, and those strategies will actually work for you long term, because you're telling yourself effective stories, You don't have dysfunctional patterns of belief, and you're able to stay into a, we haven't talked about state today, but like, you know, you're in a better state. Your nervous system is in a state of regulation. You're calm, you're regulated, connected to the people who are most important to you and to yourself especially. And now strategies are awesome.
Yeah. Mistake number 3, and this really ties in with mistake number 2 when it comes to rewiring the brain, is that you're ignoring deeper trauma and emotional wounds. So this is tied up with beliefs. If trapped trauma connected to past distressing events still stuck in your body, and this is often when we created unresourceful, dysfunctional beliefs that we have about ourselves, then that trapped trauma is going to block your ability to get the results when you come to doing rewiring practices and strategies. So it's really hard. I was talking about before, so rewiring the brain when it comes to chronic health issues is really essentially all about dialing down the amygdala and helping you to get out of fight, flight in your nervous system in your brain. And if you have unprocessed trauma and these broken videotape loops going round and round in your unconscious state, as if you're experiencing past events now, you get stuck in chronic fight flight, and it's really hard for the body and mind to surrender into retraining practices and get into that state that Chris spoke about if you've got this big balloon of trauma that wants to pop out of the water and you're constantly trying to push it back down again. So as a caveat, practices, brain rewiring practices, there are some that can actually clear trauma without you actually even knowing or identifying them. But if you're feeling really stuck, you may need to do some deeper trauma work guided by a practitioner, something that we love to do as part of our toolkit of ending body burnout is a trauma therapy called TRTP, which is incredibly quick and efficient and very safe at getting clear of like big T trauma, but also little t trauma that is very stuck in the system. Mistake number 4, doing, not being. So this would be, you got your list of things that you need to do to rewire your brain. You're ticking off the practices as if it's just a to-do list, but you're not getting into a state of being that Chris spoke about. So a framework that we sometimes use with people is be, do, have. If you're just doing brain rewiring, then you're taking what we call a worker approach. So you're doing the thing so you can have the result and be the person who's healthy. Doesn't quite work because the more you do, the more there is to do. And the energy in which you're doing the things comes often from a place of force and even fear. The winning approach is be, do, have. So this is where you're being the type of person who already is well. You're literally embodying this woman or this man that thinks the things of a well person, that behaves in this way, and you're feeling it. You're not just doing it, you're feeling it. So you can't want and have at the same time. I can't want this, I'm trying to find the camera. I can't want this texture in my hand if you're watching YouTube because I already have it. If I put that down, I can't have it because I don't have it. I just want it. It's not in my hand anymore. And that's the same when it comes to being well and healthy. You can't want to be well and have it at the same time. So you're literally starting to embody this version of you that is well and healthy as if you already have it. And the thing is, you already do have it. You actually already have the blueprint of being well and happy. It's almost like you just need to take a few layers, a few coats off so that you can ground into who you already are.
I do have something to say about the drama triangle and this. I talk about drum triangle a lot.
A couple of episodes you did.
Yeah.
In the genetic one.
And I think a victim feels like they have no choice, they have no agency, they can't do anything about it. And so as you start to rewire your brain, you're kind of becoming less of a victim in your doingness. Like you're choosing, you're trying, you're putting in effort. Where was I going with this? Being. So you've got to change the way you think. You've got to change the way that you perceive where you're at. So a lot of people get really confused with this be, do, have model, and they think, I'm always doing. Like I have to do. I can't not do. Otherwise, I need to. Otherwise, I can't live. I've got to do all the things. So how can I focus on being? Like what does being even mean? And so I think you've got to see the state that you want to be in, see how you want to do the things as you go through your to-do list. How do you want to be when you're going through that? Like what state of being? What are you focusing on? What's your body like? What's your posture like? What's your breathing like?
What are you smelling?
What are you
hearing? What are you tasting?
What's your conversations like, especially in and of yourself? What are you communicating, emoting? This is your state of being, and when you can choose a state that just matches up with health and not healing but health, more often than not you're going to start just bringing that perceived and thought about reality, the reality that's in your head, and you're going to bring that into reality, into the world. And I think that's a really critical part of this ending body burnout journey, is seeing and believing and changing your state, and then eventually over time just literally become that person.
And that state might be different from one person to the next. So and mine changes. So I remember when I was really starting to work on this deeper rewiring, shifting stuff, baggage from my unconscious state, my state of being was like solely around calm. It's like I want to get into the state and the being of calmness. These days, and again, it will probably change, but I want joy and peace. And they actually feel like the same thing for me. So something really practical that you could ask yourself is, what is the state of being that your soul desires in order to be well and whole? And try to create that every day regularly. When you're engaging in brain rewiring practices, be that person, create that state that has the results. But not even when you're practicing the rewiring, actually do it when you're living, when you're making the dishes, cooking the food, washing the dishes, putting the clothes on the line, driving to work, hanging out with the kids. Try and access that state of being that your soul desires in order to be well and whole.
And I think a lot of people forget that, like they have this light bulb moment. It's like, I really want to get into this state. This state is what's going to match up with getting me to where I want to get to. I want to be this kind of person. I want to be this kind of dad, this kind of mom, this kind of person, human being, blah, 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 husband, wife. But then it's just like they forget one of the most important words in the English language. I think it was Gordon B. Hinckley said this, is remember. And if you don't remember the state that you want to be in, you're gonna have you got Buckleys of changing, my friend. Like you've got to find a way to remember. And so I think my favorite way, just off to the side in my office here, I've got a power board and I use Post-it notes, and that helps me to stay in a state of remembrance of what's most important to me. I also carry with me a book every single day, every single place. It's got a little Batman sticker. Thanks, Uncle Matt. You'll love that one. I'm going to tag you in this episode. Batman sticker. Uncle Matt, carry you with me every single day, every single location. And I always write down things about my state of being. And I just think that really helps me. Well, this is a strategy, of course, to help me remember. If I don't fix the stories that I tell myself in my head, then I've got Buckley's of staying in the right state. So stories, state again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Mistake number 5 when it comes to rewiring the brain is lack of consistency.
Which is, kind of what I was talking about.
And you probably already know this one. So sporadic efforts will undermine the progress because consistency is the key in forming new neural pathways and breaking old habits. And a neural pathway is basically a habit. Even a symptom is a habit. A thought is a habit. So when you start rewiring the brain and like recreating new pathways, you will constantly feel like a yo-yo initially. You'll be bouncing from the old way of being to the new way of being and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that is normal and it's part of the journey. So the more consistent you can be when you're rewiring, and that's not just, every day for 10 minutes, I'm going to put on this guided rewiring practice and listen to it and everything's going to get better. It's kind of like you're doing the rewiring as you're living. So the more that you are consistent, the more that you will win, the more that you will create new neural pathways. So another way of thinking about that is the strongest state wins. So as you're bouncing from old to new, the more consistent that you can get into the new and the strongest state of being in the new way of being, then you will become that person because the old neural pathways will literally just break down and disintegrate.
I don't know if this is 100% true. Just reading notes here about 3 weeks to 3 months. I don't know. I've heard that it takes 21 days to build a habit. Like I'm pretty sure that's been debunked on fact, but let's just say 3 weeks to 3 months. My Batman journal here is a Moleskine, I think that's how you say it, Kahir pocket. Anyway, it's perfect size for a like a little habit tracker. You can't see it, but I like to keep my streak alive. As many days in a 21-day, 3-week period of doing certain stuff, but also I like to just check in with myself. Was I this kind of person today? And do I get a tick or do I get a cross? If I can get more ticks than crosses, I know I'm on the right track. I know I'm starting to lean more into being the guy that I want to be and leaning away from the dude that I don't want to be.
And consistency too. Like when we have new clients start working with us, they're often shedding all sorts of things, and like often guilt and shame comes along with with body burnout, and there's guilt and shame that they're not doing enough to get the results, and they're like letting Chris and Philly down. Never do. There's no judgment. I just look at that as like pattern. Let's look underneath that. But so something that I share with them is your unconscious mind, which is like essentially part of the neural pathways in your brain, and you're breaking everything old ways of being down. It's kind of like a little baby, really. Little baby. It needs you. It needs you there consistently. But it doesn't need you to show up and do something like extraordinary and do like this practice or journaling or like a 2-hour meditation or a breath work. It doesn't actually need you to do that to get the results, but it does need you to show up daily for yourself. And so that's going to look different for different people when it comes to rewiring. But the showing up daily is literally, have I shown up for myself today? And have I been consistent with just being aware and reprogramming in the moment? Okay, mistake number 6, failing to monitor progress. Chris talked about his little Batman book. And he does his little ticks and crosses.
Power board, using post-it notes. For people with ADHD, I think one of the best ways of monitoring your progress is doing what works and accepting that might look different day to day, week to week, month to month. And I've found the best success when I don't shame myself into trying to fit into a neurotypical box of doing the same thing all the time forever until you die. I've got my little notebook here. I've also got like my power board. I use my calendar. It works for me. Might not work for you. Works for me. Find what works. Monitor your progress. Keep track. I think they have a shelf life. These things for me, and I know a lot of people with ADHD do feel that way as well.
Yeah, and monitoring progress will look different for different people. I'm actually not someone. I don't think I've ever had something on my fridge where I'm like every day I'm ticking something off or crossing it, because
you don't need to.
Yeah, I don't need to. The way my brain is or has been wired, I can always change the way that my brain's wired, but the way, like, I can just check in with myself and I know if I've done progress.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, it does. But something like monitoring progress for me would be, this is the thing that I want to work on and this is what it would look like when I have it. And then checking in, and that might look like a weekly, or it might even be, I just know that it's in my head. Like, I know that I've written that down, or I've even thought that, and I check in my mind. So it could look like writing on a piece of paper, or it could be that it's there with you anyway and you're reflecting on it.
In some ways, like, Philippa is the most logical and organized and like structured person that you would ever see. And then you look at her laptop desktop and you'd be like, whoa. And then you look at mine and you'd be like, Chris, you're so organized. You're a wonder of structure and a pillar of neatness. And then you have a look at like my cupboard,
well, yeah,
compared to yours.
My cupboard's very neat. My desktop, not neat.
My cupboard,
that's okay.
My cupboard merges into the floor in the corner. I like to have a toss pile, like you throw it into a section of the cupboard before it gets put away. It's been awesome. That's my favorite spot.
Well, here's the funny thing is that when I fold the washing, I'll put mine into my spots, and I love it that you have a toss pile.
Isn't it great?
I just tossed yours in the toss pile.
I love it too. You do understand. You don't even need to fold my clothes, right? Because by the time
I won't. Cool, great.
When I put them...
Okay, so back to monitoring progress. Look, tracking progress, however it works for you, is actually rewiring in itself, because your brain starts looking for evidence that you're healing and that you're progressing. So whether that's you have something on computer, on a piece of paper, or you're checking in inside your head, your brain is going to be looking for more and more of what you've done well and evidence of healing, and your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between small and big wins. So, which is really great, especially for people who have been running perfectionism patterns, that when you celebrate the small wins and even the tiny minuscule little pieces of evidence that you're healing, even if you could put a little magnifying glass on that and think, oh, is that evidence? It's like, yeah, just believe that it's evidence, because then you'll see more of it. And you'll create more of it and your body will follow. Another mistake that people make in line with monitoring progress is that sometimes people get fixated on tracking symptoms. It's a very common strategy in like the natural health space, functional medicine, where it's like, okay, yeah, just track your symptoms. With the good intention that we want to see that they're reducing. But when you're focusing on tracking your symptoms to see if you're progressing, your brain will look for more of the symptom and it will create more of the symptom. So you want to rewire your brain to look for what you do want, not what you don't want. If you track symptoms, you're going to be reinforcing old neural pathways. It's just going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The healing is going to take so much longer. And underpinning that is because your brain doesn't understand no or don't want. If you say, I don't want anxiety, and that's what I'm going to track. I'm going to track to make sure that my anxiety reduces. Your brain hears anxiety and it's like, okay, let's do more of this. So instead, you want to monitor, I want a calm and peaceful mind. And then your brain's going to hear that and it's going to look and create more of that. All right, last mistake. Mistake number 7, not seeking support. So attempting to rewire the brain without support can be challenging. A big mistake that I see, that I also made too, was that when people think about their healing journey and, they think about, okay, maybe my mind needs some help as well. And they're reading a lot of stuff, they're listening to podcasts, they're consuming information. What I see is that a lot of people think they can sort their own mind out. So I see this with old way of practicing. I used to just practice standard functional medicine, and then we started adding in the mind and metaphysical component, which has created our ending body burnout method today. But when we were transitioning into let's create a holistic way of healing, what we found were a lot of new clients would see so much value in hiring me, Philly, a functional medicine practitioner, to tell them what tests to take, to tell them what supplements to take and what diet they needed to do. Because for that person, they felt like that was the missing piece of information that they couldn't see until they had the data on a sheet. It's like, now I can see on my lab test I have this issue and I need to do this. A lot of people just thought, oh yeah, I know I've got some issues with my mind, but I know that they're there, so I'll sort those out. I kind of believe the same thing as well. It's just like, I should be able to sort that part out because I'm in my mind all the time, but I don't know what's happening in my body. So I will spend thousands of dollars on lab tests to tell me that. But here's the thing is it can be really hard to rewire neural pathways of beliefs, of patterns, of symptoms, because you've highly likely been reinforcing them for decades. And so having someone in your corner to know how to go deeper, to troubleshoot, to give support, to give encouragement can mean that you are held in the space of transformation so that it actually works. And your nervous system unconscious mind also hates change. So does your brain. And so when it comes to rewiring your brain and your way of being, all of a sudden your body, your nervous system is going to feel like that's really dangerous because it's uncertain. So you're going to have all sorts of strategies pop up unconsciously to prevent you from doing the work and, maybe even running away or only doing the work surface level. So it is super useful to have someone in there who has done the work, who knows what it feels like. And another benefit of having a support crew is that it's very easy for a trained coach to be able to see your blind spots in your psyche. So your unconscious mind is actually way harder for you to see your blind spots. I mentioned the lab test before. It's like, it might be hard to know if you've got leaky gut or if you have a nutrient deficiency, run a lab test. But just like blind spots in your unconscious mind, it is very hard for you to see them. There is no test for that. But when you have a well-trained and perceptive coach by your side, it's pretty easy for us to see blind spots and patterns and beliefs. And then making it safe for you to be able to see that too.
Yeah, having somebody to hold you in the healing. Jamin mentioned this, and then I've heard it a few other times, but he was the first. It's like a coach is like somebody who's like a cast. When you break your arm. So when I've broken my arm a couple of times, I'll be in a cast, and that holds me in the right place so that healing can take in my body. And what we enjoy doing is having you or having somebody be in the right place at the right time and just witnessing and experiencing you heal and that's just, it's such a joy and a pleasure. And I know that when I've given my trust and my put myself into the care of a coach, having their input and their insights is just a wonderful thing. And as a guy, I think stereotypically most of our clients are female, and as a guy, I do know that it is a humbling experience to have somebody say, "Oi, did you know this is a thing that I notice is going on for you?" Being in that cast is humbling, and I know a lot of my friends growing up, a lot of my friends now, as guys, this is a hard thing for us to do stereotypically. But it's great. It's a fantastic experience.
It is. So speaking of support, outdoors to our Ending Body Burnout method, which is our 6-month healing accelerator program. We've won awards with it. It's born out of the book, Our Ending Body Burnout, which has been on the Today Show, by the way. So doors open in 3 weeks in September. If you're not on the wait list yet, jump on the wait list. I'll put the link in the show notes. Benefit of that is that you will get access to over $500 worth of early bird bonuses if you join before doors open, and they will be disappearing every day. And also, because our program includes one-on-one consults and coaching, we only have limited spaces. So first dibs.
Don't miss out.
First spots, if they get filled before the end of launch week, doors will close early. And also just a reminder too that in September, in a few weeks, we will be holding our free coaching week, Rewire Your Brain to Heal from Body Burnout. We're so excited about this. We've been prepping and planning it. It's going to be awesome. It'll be great. Even if you're not interested in working with us, you'll learn so much, and we love to really get in and actually coach people, not just give you more information. So it's going to be really worth your while. And also, if you are thinking about working with us, it's a great way to just see if you resonate with our way of healing and our way of coaching and our approach.
All right, guys. So take good care. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode. We will hopefully catch you soon.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.